Also, I heard he didn't really believe in grants.
Real numbers.
Okay, well, that's
To
good
who?
to know.
The
I mean,
last
if we're gonna
board?
give you
Yeah.
something,
Yeah.
they should know what it takes as opposed to what's happening with us in insurance. Absolutely. And just demonstrate how crazy it is.
Well, there is an art and science to grant. I mean, not every grant is a good
Yeah.
grant. Some of
Yeah.
them cost more as much to administer
I'm gonna
as they.
And I
start
used to be a grant writer. and
Yeah, by the way,
somebody-
congratulations.
Legal
Wow.
Before you go on
And the
record.
grant-
Put a lot of.
Oh, yeah, I saw you were close.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, well,
An opportunity.
So are we,
I don't know.
go?
Live.
Let's
Hold on,
we
let me
got
get our
here.
video up here and we will be good to go.
Right,
All right.
all right. Let's see, online, we have Stephanie Beck and we have Cherie with us this morning, or this afternoon. I would like to welcome everyone. I'd like to call this meeting to order. At, looks like about 3:03 this afternoon. Thanks for waiting while we got everybody situated. This is the regular Finance Committee meeting of the Georgetown Divide Public Utility District of Thursday, March 28th, 2024. And let's begin, if we will, with a Pledge of Allegiance followed by a roll call. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Elizabeth, would you do a roll call for us, please?
Member Miller, he did check in. Unfortunately, he won't be with us today. Secretary Hillett, here. Vice Chair Lawrence.
Here.
Chairman Fisher,
Here.
Liaison Stovall,
Present.
and Liaison McDonald.
Present.
Brings us to item number 2, which is the adoption of today's agenda. Has everybody had a chance to look over it? Have any questions? If not, I'll hear a motion to adopt.
I'll move. Adopt.
I second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, motion, the agenda for today is adopted. That brings us to our public forum. I see no one in our physical audience here today, but we do have a couple of folks online. This is your opportunity to talk about anything that is not agendized. Do we have anybody with hands up? Anybody have anything to say during public comment today, Stephanie?
Stephanie's an employee here, so.
Stephanie's an employee. Okay, well, that doesn't mean you can't say anything if you want, but we won't put you on the spot if you don't want to.
Not stopping her from saying anything. I just wanted to know that she is
Did Sharif fall off the grid there or
Yeah.
is that an
We lost her
accident?
For public comment. I mean, it's on her end. We're
Okay.
still alive. Mhm.
So you sure you don't want to know gossip about your boss or anything, Stephanie, while you're, now's your chance. All right, so that will then close public comment for today, and that brings us to informational items and the financial reports. Who's gonna, minutes, thank you.
So I sent you that email.
So we have the minutes before us from our meeting of February 22nd. Has everybody had a chance to look over those? Anybody, any
Yeah.
questions, edits?
No.
No?
No.
And so I hear a motion to approve the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of February 26th.
I
Yep.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes of February 22nd are approved. Now we move on to financial reports, informational item number 5. Who's gonna take that one?
I believe 5 is the budget.
Financial.
Financial report, sorry.
Where we're at in the
I
year.
apologize. I went ahead.
So these are the standard financials. Per Mitch's request months ago, I finally figured out how to put a line in the graph. So now there's a line in the graph of where our target is, which at this point is 67% of the budget.
Yay, thank you. Wow.
And
2/3 of the year.
yeah. And per usual, 5,400 and 5,600 are up there, but most 54 is mostly operational. And then 56 is all of those things that we pay one time a year, so it should start getting closer and closer to the target as we get closer to the end.
See any anomalies, anything that concerns you as you head into the end of our fiscal year being June 30th?
Definitely right on track. Kind of wrapping up on a few last minute projects before the end of the fiscal year, but nothing, I don't think that's gonna push us over the edge.
I had a couple comments going through, and I think we talked a little bit, and we'll just discuss this further in budget. But one is health insurance. I see that we're a little bit over on health insurance. And are we good for the next budget on?
We did have 3 babies in the district,
Good, congratulations to whoever had them.
so there's 3 more dependents that we were not expecting to add to the health insurance. If you look at the budget, proposed budget for next year, you'll see that
Right.
it doesn't go up that much, but we'll be more on target.
Great. The second thing I noticed was fuel, or just to make sure we allocate for fuel next year. Because it looks like in a few of these, we're a little bit up on it. Not by much, but just a cautionary thing.
Mhm.
And then I had one other question. There's a 7,100 capital outlay water fund.
What page do you want?
I'm on page 3 of 9. And I just wondered what that was. You see where I'm looking? 7,100 capital outlay, 2/3 of the page down. Fund 100, water fund surplus deficit. I was curious what that was. $560,000.
I mean, we put capital expenses into the budget for each department this year.
Okay.
I don't know off the top of my head what that expense is for, but it's a general water fund capital expense,
Okay,
not associated with CIP.
okay. All right, I guess that makes sense.
So 111 is all our CIP projects, and you'll see capital expenses there as well.
And then right below that, you got Fund 101, retiree health surplus. Well, it looks
Yes.
like we took a hit on that, and the question, is that a one-time hit, or is it gonna be a
No,
recurring
we
hit?
didn't take a hit. The implementation of, we're still finding, you don't know what you don't know. And so I had to dig
True.
back 3 years to figure out why our retiree health expenses were split between Fund 100 and Fund 101.
Mhm.
So it's been fixed, and I did a journal entry. You'll see it in the March financials. But that we weren't budgeting correctly. There's supposed to be 3 separate line items. One for what the district cost for retiree health is, and that's what their allotments are per the contracts when they retired. So there's different, depending on when you go back. We have one general manager. I'm not gonna say the name on
It's
the.
okay.
But they retired with full benefits, not an allotment. So no matter what their plan is, we pay the full cost. Then there's other that was like a special case, and who knows what was going on back then. But our newer retirees are coupled into our JPIA Aqua Health Plan. And that was going in one place. And then the older retirees that had different tiered allotments, they were going into a separate place. They all should have been allocated to the same place. And then when the retirees pay back their portion of the benefits, it should have been offsetting the district cost. And it wasn't, they were all over the place, and that's just how it had always been done. So I fixed it, so it's fixed. In March, you'll see
Okay,
that we have the water fund, 5,600 retiree benefits is our cost. No matter what their plan is, we only pay their allotment, what they were guaranteed at their retirement. And then there's the retiree fund is where their cost gets billed and they pay it back, and you'll see that it offsets and it should balance.
the only reason I raise it is make sure we budget for it if we need to budget for it.
Oh, it's budgeted for now.
Okay, I just didn't, it looked to me like it was an anomaly, and I wanna make sure we've got it covered for next year, that's all.
And I believe there's 2, Stephanie would know all of this, cause she deals with the retirees, but there's at least 1, if not 2, where their plan amounts change in October. The rest of them change during a regular calendar year in January. So I budgeted what it is right now through the end of 2024, and then added a percentage. I calculated what their increases had been and just proposed that for the rest of the 6 months of 25.
I'm happy.
And they can change plans, so it's up to them what plan they have, but the cost of the district shouldn't change because we know what their allotments are. Mhm.
Anybody online have any questions about the financial report for where we're at in our current fiscal year? Sheree, is that Sheree's hand up?
Sheree, did you have a comment for us? We saw your hand go up there briefly.
Yeah, I'm having phone trouble today. What are we on? Just the financials, not the budget yet?
That's right.
Okay, I don't have any questions on that.
Okay. Seeing no other questions, no other hands, move on to our action items. Item 6A, review of preliminary fiscal year 24-25 budget. Who's gonna field that one?
So that'll be a team effort. I do have something that's gonna get added in kind of at the end. It's our consolidated expenses. So we took all these categories and added them up. Unfortunately, those didn't make it into the packet. They will be posted after this. And then we do have a revenue page to go over what our revenues are. Unfortunately, again, that didn't get posted, but you'll be able to at least review it. As we go in through the different categories, I'd be happy to go through them individually. I'd be happy to go through them, all at once. You can see the percentage of change that we have on the far column there. That is the change from the previous year's budgeted amount. It's not about what we propose. It is over and above what we think will be from last year. So if you see a negative, that means it's that much less. If you see a positive, we think it's gonna be that much more. So for example, 5,100, the total wages and benefits up by approximately 17%. Non-labor expenses down by about 5%. Total department expenses up by about 8%. Now, this does include a potential MOU change from the labor union that has been proposed. And so we did include those numbers to ensure that we had those captured just when and if that is approved. So we wanted to make sure that the committee is aware that these salary numbers are including that additional cost.
Yeah, that was one of the questions I had, so good.
So if we want to go to page 3, it kind of goes, it does a breakdown now. The key to this is, yeah, you're right there. The blue numbers, any of the, if it shows up in blue, and I'm not sure if you guys got colors around. Blue means it went down, red means it went up. And so we, started bringing some of the equipment rental prices down. A lot of that was from, having to do fire mitigation, rapid response. Well, luckily, if you guys want to walk out in the back, we can go look at our brand new excavator that's sitting back there. And so we don't need to rent as many extra pieces of equipment now. So we were able to reduce those numbers. We did increase a little bit of the training. That's for some safety training we're looking at doing, and some other operator training, stuff like that for the source of supply guys. If you want to move into materials and supplies, took a little better look at some of the stuff. Some of the stuff came down. The gravel and the erosion control, those are going up. Those are all generally going to be considered reimbursable through litigation or other methodologies, i.e. Grants and other things that we're trying to do to mitigate the mosquito relief that we're doing. The gravel is to do road repairs. The erosion control is usually wattles or hay bales or some other methodology to keep the debris out of the canal. Some of the equipment you'll see and equipment maintenance and service, that's obviously we have more equipment now, so unfortunately we have to pay a little bit more in the maintenance portion, so it goes up slightly there. There was a question about fuel, so you do see that there's a reduction in some fuel, but an increase in equipment fuel in most areas. The one big one, the dam permit fees, we we overestimated what they were gonna be last year. So we dialed back to what we paid this year for the dam permit fees, and the water right fees went up, I think, by $500 or $600. It wasn't, it's up, but it's. Person what we got now, and we made this call all day. And then if you look down on the bottom, professional services, so we have Western Hydraulics, they do all our gauging, they do all our reporting for the state and stuff like that, so they are lower than we had budgeted for last year. So I'd be happy to take any questions on 5100. I don't mind if you want to open it to the public as well. I want to make sure that this is useful for everybody.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just
Any
have,
questions from the community?
I just have a couple observations, and I think we talked a little bit about health insurance costs are allocated properly. We know what they're gonna be, so we're good on that, right? Fuel costs, we talked a little bit about that. I see utilities is only 7%, and I know in others it's more than that. I just want us to be mindful that they're probably gonna increase, and it looks like we've got increases. I just was wondering, is 7% enough as we go through and we look at utilities, have we budgeted enough?
So, yeah, utilities is kind of a funny one, because some things are utilities that you wouldn't necessarily think of as utilities, and it's how we are having this put in here. For this particular department, other ones you'll see a larger increase, i.e. the treatment plants under 5,300. Unfortunately, PG&E has instituted a 20% increase for this year. So you will see a large increase in power costs and utility costs
Right.
for PG&E.
Right. Just, as I said, I want to be mindful of that, but you know, there was some discussion in the past about professional services, and I think that you guys have really held the line on that this year, which I think is, you know, it's a discretionary thing that gives us an opportunity to do something. But other than that, you know, it's nice to see everything, you know, very, very tightly controlled and well documented.
What do you pay CAL FIRE for?
We use the Growlersburg crews to go in and do mitigation work, tree trimming, tree cutting, burning. They're quite reasonable, and it's actually kind of an interesting program. We don't necessarily pay. We pay in lieu, and we buy like equipment for them. We buy shovels and rakes and stuff so that they can have their guys use stuff. So it's I think I want to say it's like $250 a day or something to have like a whole crew of guys out there, and it's
Like eight guys.
8 guys. It's absurd.
They
how
walk
much
the
it is.
ditches and like, you know, Donna's pet projects, they walk the ditches and clear all the brush and burn them and
Well worth it.
in the rain.
Yeah, they do a lot of work at Walton to make sure
Yeah.
that whole property is cleared. They did last year, I think they did 4 or 5 acres right there and burned and cleaned.
It just covers costs.
All we do is buy like equipment. It's all considered in kind. So they come out, they do the work. We can't pay the guys, obviously, because they're prisoners, but we can buy the tools for them to do the jobs and then other jobs, and that's what they ask for.
Great.
Yeah, it's a subsidized program through the Department of Corrections, and if you ever seen somebody, you could say they're paying their debt to society, those guys work.
Oh, they take names. They kick buttons, they take names. They are out there working. Mr. Chairman, I do see a hand raised from Ms. Cherie.
Ms. Cherie, you have the floor. Go ahead and turn off your mute button and what's on your mind.
Okay, can you hear me?
We can.
I'm curious as to, the fiscal year 22-23 with the $816,000 added in to wages and benefits. Why
Yeah.
that's in there and actually included in the total?
Yeah, I can address that. That's, it's kind of a curious thing. It's part of our audit. It's part of our long-term, pension reform expenses. It is considered a revenue, and it's kind of odd, but it's more of a liability that we have for the district. And the best way I can describe it, and it's a little bit confusing, if every employee here were to work until they were 55 or 62 years old to their retirement age, those are the amounts of money that we would owe to those employees. So those are kind of the unfunded liabilities or the liabilities that we have for retirement expenses. Now, I don't think that everybody here is going to work until they're 55 or 62, whatever their retirement age is here at the district. So they will likely be different. But you will see that in each of the different departments, that expense. And so those are all a different expense. It's about what, Jessica, $3.2 million, if I might be wrong on my point.
Yeah, because it's spread out through the funds,
Yeah.
and the reason it showed up in fiscal year 22-23 is that number was based on the fiscal year 22 budget.
Yeah.
And that was the first year we had to report it.
Yes.
And if you Google GASB 68, it'll explain exactly what it is.
Yeah, so this is not
It's
something.
federally mandated that we report it on our financials.
And it was a big consternation within the audit, and I think you all remember that this showed up during the audit.
Right.
They actually wrote a memo, the auditor wrote a memo to the district stating what this was. It comes across weird, it looks like it's a revenue, but it's actually a liability, and it's an unfunded, it's what unfunded pensions we have to be on the hook for.
I think it was 2.8.
Okay. But my question is, why is it in the budget? Shouldn't it be like a separate notation somewhere with it's $2.7 million?
That's why it's
Why
in
is
each,
it not?
because we.
Right, but you're altering the budget for that year that was already adopted. I don't understand if doesn't seem like that's the appropriate place to put something like that.
Well, because potentially we would have,
Mr. Chairman, the best way I can describe this is to say that this is part of the GASB 68 requirements. We are including it in there at the recommendation of our auditor.
Okay, so the auditors told you to do that. Okay, so then why is it not included in the current year budget and your future budget?
We won't know what it is until the auditor comes back and tells us. This is something that will come and it will show up just like this. That's why it's in italics. It's literally there in italics because it is part of the fiscal year audit. It says right in the line item, per fiscal year end audit.
Okay, but okay, so I can see in parentheses or whatever, but why include it in the total?
I can't answer this anymore. I'm sorry.
All right, let me.
Okay, so wait a minute, my other question is, I would like a copy of the revenue and the consolidated expenses emailed to me. I just sent a request. It's a Brown Act violation
It's
to
actually
not
not,
have that available.
we haven't shared it with anybody yet.
it's not a Brown Act violation. I
So
understand.
you have not given it to the board.
No.
No,
Okay, all right. That's what I thought I heard you say.
I said it will be presented at the end of this presentation as we just completed it. Sorry.
All right,
Mr. Chairman, would you like me to move on to other departments at this point? I think you
I
have.
would, yeah.
the only question I have, and I think this is right, from I understand GASB 68. You need to put it on the financial, but it's not funded right now. It's a line item that shows this is your potential liability.
Yes,
But you don't fund for it. So as a result, it really isn't part of the budget, although they wanted it included, so that when you look at the financials, any individual then understands, oh, this is a potential liability, because before this, and this happened I went through the whole thing in private industry. People didn't realize you had these huge liabilities, potential liabilities out here, and they said, wait a minute, that's bad accounting. We should at least show that it's there. You don't have to fund it. And is that correct understanding of?
100%.
You do not have to have a reserve account for it.
All right.
Yeah, it's, if you look at the way it's actually, it's its own line. I know it looks like it's together with everything else. It's in its own area. It's a legal requirement. We're not amending or changing anything. We're showing you.
Understood.
We're showing what was actually put in
Understood.
the audit.
And it's in each one of the various departments so that we know what the allocation would be, right?
That's correct.
Depending on the employee, it's budgeted just like the salaries where the employees may work across separate people. So it gets totaled with the same formula that the salaries do.
Got it.
State and federal government have the same unfunded liability.
Mhm.
And it's not a fraction of the budget, it's multiples of the budget. and people don't know this, so it's just it's being transparent is what it is.
Right. Had the opportunity to work with the city of Jacksonville, $2 billion.
Oh, yeah, I mean, ours is,
More than 4 years of the budget.
the whole state, I think, is somewhere in the neighborhood of $4 to $5 billion. And so our 2.8 million is
Chump change.
pennies. 5,200 is our raw water, budget. Again, I'll just kind of point out, total wages and benefits up about 17%. Non-labor expenses up about 36%. Some of this is because if you notice under safety supplies, we're adding a few things in there to purchase for safety supplies.
So that,
Total, total budget increase, we're looking at about 19%. We're still kind of dialing some of these in so that those numbers may fluctuate down a bit. We're just trying to make sure we have some tight numbers. Going down into page 5 with the detail, you have, again, gravel and rock going up, some lumber going up for the flume repairs. Verizon is going up. Again, equipment maintenance. So when we take all the equipment maintenance for all the different excavators and all the different equipment, we divide it by the percentages used for each of the different departments. So that's why that's in each department. Again, you'll see CAL FIRE in there. One more time, Mr. Chairman, that is, again, the same thing. Having them go out and do work within the raw water system. They will actually go down and work in the canals as was stated. So much of everything here is the same. The employee allowances that you see that's going up, that is, again, something that is coming out of a potential MOU update.
Right.
Was there any questions for Department 5,200? I can move on to 5,300. If not, I do not see any hands raised at the moment.
Yeah, go ahead and just work through them. If we see a hand up there and a comment comes up, we can
Excellent.
call them, but go ahead and just work through them.
Working into 5,300, this might be a little bit of a misnomer. You'll notice the salaries are a little low in 5,300 as the actual as of. We ran most of the year without a treatment 2, which was approved in last year's budget. We had a really, really tough time finding and hiring an employee to take that position. Luckily, I want to say 30 to 45 days ago or so, we did hire a young man who is taking that role. So that's a good news. So that is not going up much, but it is now accounting for that third person.
got it.
Total wages and benefits going up about 6%, so not much here in this one. Then non-labor expenses going up 15%, and I would say a majority of that is coming in those utilities. So
Got
you see a big jump there, and then so total department expenses up about 10%. Moving into the detail report, just please take note of PG&E. That was, I think, 1 or 2. I want to say 220 last year, and that's the amount of increase. It's almost $50,000 in just energy.
Is that 19% annualized?
It is
projected?
They said it's got, the last bills, because we get like 15 bills. The bills say that it went up 19% in January, but they expect it to reach 24% by May. That's what the bill said.
Yeah, they've got another
They got another hike
rate
coming.
increase requested.
It's every year, so it's multiple years. That's just for, actually businesses is about 18%, homeowners is actually up to the 20%, it's 19.2 for homeowners,
Oh, I
so.
thought it was way down there at only 17.
No, that's business, 17.8.
17.8.
Yeah, 17.8 for businesses, so we're way down there,
Way down. to
so much
17.
less than the 19.2 for homeowners.
That means it doubles every 5 years.
So
Well-
is this kind of putting some importance on solar?
I was getting there, Yeah, so there's actually a project when we get to the CIP, we've been working with a solar organization. And more or less, we can take a loan, it's a specialized solar loan. And instead of spending this money to PG&E, we can take this amount of money and we can spend it on the loan program. And we can offset most of this, and then we're left with an asset at the end of the loan program that can continue to generate power into the future. And then we are going to attempt a grant to obtain batteries that will be used in conjunction with that solar. Charge those batteries, we can run the entire plant. So our goal with this will be mostly for the Sweetwater treatment plant, mostly have that run completely offline, off grid, and not have any need for PG&E. We'll be connected in an emergency, but for the most part, we will be off the grid.
Could you, what is the payback period? Is it 15, 20 years?
It depends on if we have the batteries and it dramatically changes. So payback on the solar alone is, I believe, 12.5 years. Payback with the batteries is like 7 years.
7 years. And the life span of the batteries is 25 to 30 years. I mean, the solar panels, 25 to 30 years.
The life of the solar panels is typically 30 years. However, they will last longer than that. That it would be the length of the service contract that we have. But after the 30 years, they would be hours we could service them. We can continue to maintain them.
Because they also lose efficiency too.
They do lose efficiency, so that is something that has to be taken into account. We can always have them replaced and continue on with the service contract. The only thing, you asked about batteries, there is a battery maintenance at 15 years. So once you have batteries, every 15 years, those have to be maintained, and it's roughly $200,000 to $250,000 to do, they do kind of an overhaul of them, you know, drain the fluid, do all the stuff. I'm not a battery guy. I don't know. I know what it costs.
Yeah.
And so we can also get some of that, when we buy it, we actually get some credits from the federal government. So even through this loan program, we can actually get a credit of about 35% back from the federal government. So it's a $1.7 million project that we're estimating where we can potentially receive 35%. And then the batteries is a $1.7 million project that we're hoping to have fully funded by grant programs.
Great.
So yes, solar is definitely something on our radar. I will continue to move forward as I don't see any hands. 5,400, this is our distribution and treated water. Total wages increase is approximately 10%. We did have a little bit of turnover in this area, so we do have some newer and younger employees. So that's a little bit where some of that in salary change is coming from. If we move into the non-labor expenses, it looks like it's going down by about 2%. Total department expenses going up by about 7%. What we actually have done here is taken a lot of the rental stuff away again. So again, we have this new equipment. We don't need to rent as much stuff. We were renting excavators and we were renting dump trucks. We were renting all this extra equipment. I'm not sure if you all saw at the last board meeting or two board meetings ago, excuse me, we did get approval to buy a new dump truck for the district. So that will be something to, as opposed to having to rent a dump truck, we'll be able to utilize the one that we're purchasing. So that's why we're reducing much of those costs. You will notice that some fuel went up, so I wanted to Member Gorens, you had mentioned about fuel, so that is on here. That is part of something that we've considered. Now, I do want you to look in this, we have the asbestos pipe cutter and the hydrant buddy, which is a valve exerciser. We are actually going to be applying for an aqua grant. It's a risk control, risk mitigation grant, and they love purchasing those. The hydrant buddy, that valve exercising is a huge workers' comp issue. People hurting themselves trying to turn old valves. And so what this is actually a machine that goes on there. The guys, turn it on and it turns, it opens and exercises the valve without having somebody there physically, wrenching on this valve. So we're hoping to have those costs offset. That will be done at the end of the year. Again, a little bit of work from CAL FIRE. We do have some pump stations that they work around. They do some weed eating and stuff like that. So that's where that cost is coming in. We do have a small increase in the State Water Resource Control Board fees. You can see a little bit of increase in lab fees from last year. So I'll go ahead and just kind of pause for half a second. I don't see any hands, but I will look to the committee. Okay, seeing none, going to 5,600 and you'll notice we don't have 5,500 anymore. That was abolished last year. 5,500 used to be customer service. We've now integrated it completely into 5,600. So you'll notice the department wages and benefits going up by about 14%. The non-labor going down by about 2%. Total department expenses up by 7%. One thing that I will make a note of, the accounting is a new line item that we're adding in, and you'll notice that last year we budgeted for $80,000, and doing some research from the contract that was submitted to the district, they bid half of the year at $80,000. So we actually are going in at the next board meeting for a budget amendment and a new PSA to cover the actual cost of this. When they sent us the original agreement was $80,000, we assumed that was for a full year, but we didn't realize that they actually took over from another CPA halfway through the year that wasn't doing their job correctly. So we made sure now that we have the right amount of money in there. It is $160,000. That is the correct amount that it should cost us to have them on staff with us every year. Other notes, I don't have anything. I will note that the professional service is where the accounting used to be in. We did not add anything in there. We did not pad that. We actually took that out. So I want you to take note of that. Let's see. I think that is everything. I do see a hand raised, Mr. Chairman, so if you want to open it up to the committee first, and then Ms. Cherie has a question, quick.
Cherie, go ahead.
Okay, you have 80,000 in there. The budget was 90,000. They're at 180,000 as of January. And this
Which line are you
month's
looking at?
financial.
About accounting.
Okay.
The CPA, my favorite subject. So you're saying the previous CPAs didn't do the budget or didn't do the CPA work correctly, so now we have to pay double?
No,
That was in 2021.
that's not what I said. That's not
So-
even close to what I said.
Okay, well, it's budgeted in professional services, 335. 90,000 of that was for the CPA.
It was 80,000.
Well, my budget said 90,000. So now they're at 180,000 as of January, which is 7 months. You have 5 more months to go, and you're only putting in 160 for the new year.
That is correct.
Okay, well, that doesn't compute.
I'm sorry. There's many explanations that have been given over the past few board meetings. They did 2 audits in 1 year. That's part of the overage cost. The contract that we have with them is $160,000, save for the extra work that they had to do this year. So that is why it is at $160,000.
Okay, so now I can submit my PRA again and actually get actual documents this time? Since you've already audited the CPAs?
I mean, I don't understand what you're asking there. That's.
My
You can-
my PRA stated that I had to wait until you guys figured out what they were doing. Pretty much is what it stated from a couple months ago. So I couldn't get the documentation.
You're welcome to resubmit your PRA at any time.
Well, it needed to
Okay.
be fulfilled.
You're welcome to resubmit your PRA at any time. We told you that we were awaiting for documentation. We will readdress the PRA and we will address it.
Okay, let's move on.
I have a question. For insurance, I see that it went up, but it's minimal. I mean, do you feel you're comfortable with that? It feels like insurance is going up all over the place, property insurance, vehicle insurance.
Yeah, so that's actually a quote that we get from our insurance company
Okay.
before we have an actual quote from them. So that's a real number that we just plug in.
Perfect.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing.
Yeah, we get, what if we get that one in January, I think?
I think we
GDPUD,
get it during, right before open enrollment.
No, it's for the, not, it's for our property insurance, not for. health
Oh,
insurance.
liability?
Yeah, liability.
Yeah.
I thought you said health insurance.
No, yeah, property.
It's line item, 51301.
2%.
General GL liability.
98,000.
Yeah, that all pretty much, it's all Aqua, we get all that information. That's a Stephanie question. I don't know when we receive it. It's usually in the fall.
Yeah, we get basically a quote from very early in the year, what it's
Okay.
gonna be.
Okay, just so you feel
Dorothy, what
comfortable
was
with
your
that.
comment that it went?
Well, I was expecting a higher jump, so I'm happy.
Yeah, I
That
do
it's
too.
not.
I expected the same
Yeah.
thing.
So being in a big pool is helpful.
Okay.
That Aqua JPAA is who does our insurance, and they do many bigger water districts than us.
Okay,
I wouldn't say we're insulated, but we are insulated slightly from having to have those big increases, and they try to minimize those big increases.
nice,
So you're saying a bigger jump than a negative 2%?
yeah.
Okay, all right, that's one.
Yes.
2% is negative 0.0.
There you go.
Thank you, Siri, for your
I-
service to this meeting.
Did I include Siri?
All right.
I had a quick question on retiree benefit, which is increasing. Do we anticipate retirees, I guess, this year?
No, that was part of the glitch where
That
we
was
didn't
part of
have
it.
a liability account.
Got it.
So if you look, well, you can't look in here.
No, I get it.
You'll see it under consolidated expenses, the document we have not yet shared with you. That there is a fund for retiree benefits. There's a retiree expense fund.
Right.
And so all of our current retirees that are no longer working here, that retired from the districts, we're being split over 5,600 in that retiree fund. So that has been corrected.
Got it.
And you will see those updated financials in March. Because those journal entries were done in March.
Okay.
And it's been fixed going forward.
Got it.
So we went over the detailed report in, the last meeting. If you want to go over it again, we are welcome to look at it, anything.
So are we? I'm thinking about 450,000 more this year.
We have that's the consolidated expenses,
Okay.
will show that.
Okay. I do have a question, but it's kind of a little off topic. Is that okay?
You're in charge, you're not me.
Pool cash report. I see we, withdrew like $35,000 from investment securities. And I was just wondering, is that bill paying or? And. Yeah, I'm wondering,
What page are you on?
oh, sorry,
Full cash, page 102.
yes. And why would it come from that account, not like a US bank safekeeping or?
So the US Bank safekeeping is our holding account. So if one of our treasuries or bonds matures, the money, because we don't want to reinvest more than $250,000 because we want to be covered.
Sure.
So all of that goes into the safekeep. The safekeeping is like a checking account.
Okay,
It's not an investment account.
okay,
And then the investment securities are all of those different. I'm not gonna do 35 journal entries every week to account for all the different treasuries and bonds we have.
yeah,
So we just pull them all together and do one journal entry that shows all the different things. So I can find that out for you.
okay, I'm just curious. What,
It's
Yeah.
probably that it was reinvested, and so that
Okay.
money was then moved somewhere else.
Okay.
I believe the safekeeping account, although it's short term, we still get a pretty good yield for that.
So the safe-
Accessibility, right?
No, you're thinking of class. So safekeeping is basically
It's like a checking account.
Oh,
it's more of an umbrella holding account for CDs and treasuries.
oh,
The class is a little bit different than that. So this is
is that where all
based,
the dividends and interest and stuff
that is correct.
accumulate?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Okay, so we'll go into 6,100.
Yeah, go right. Go ahead and go on in if I don't hear any other.
Oh, no,
questions.
my computer was not letting me scroll, so I wasn't able to look. Apologize. Here we have about a 22% increase in the total wages and benefits. A -4 in non-labor expenses. So total department expenses is 10% or so. You'll notice on the bottom, a lot of the stuff is going up in, we have monitoring, we have some employee allowances, and we have a tractor down there that we're gonna do some maintenance on, so tires, oil, all that kind of stuff. Then the lab fees, we are noticing, a little bit of a small increase in lab fees, so we have that there. Obviously, again, we are accounting for more fuel. And we're trying to buy a new confined space tripod, so that's one of the things that is in the capital expenses that wasn't there last year. So not too much here, still going down in the non-labor expenses, up overall, but we're getting tighter on where we're trying to figure stuff out. I'll move on to the capital improvement plan.
Let me just make one more comment.
Yeah, of course.
I was impressed with a couple things. One is the discretionary stuff, and this is for operations guys, they've controlled the overtime. Part of it was because, I think we've had a little bit different. I think it's a colder year this year, but we didn't have all the snow, but it's still, overtime is something that you can control, and they've done a great job of that. I think the other thing is professional services. I think that we've looked at, there was complaints about professional services, and I think you've held the line there. So I think overall, the things that you can control, I think operations done a really good job of controlling. And I think it's reflected in the budget that we're looking at for next year. And, that's about all you can do is control the things you can, because the other stuff can't. And then it's just a question of how much you allocate for that and make sure it's enough. And I think it looks pretty good. So, go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
No, you're talking about, I appreciate that. Let's look at the capital improvement plan, then I'll pull up the consolidated expenses and revenue. Capital improvement plan, so with the rate study going on, I wanted to do a little bit of kind of a minimal pre-capital improvement plan. The rate study will really go in depth in what is needed on a time sensitive scale and how much things will cost. We also have a number of grants that we are identifying to do some of this work, so leveraging other agency money is very important to myself, and I know the district. If we can, do some of the smaller stuff in-house on the capital improvement plan, and then we have a whole nother section for granting. So we're still looking for somebody to do the tunnel inspection. It's, again, I asked in the last committee, we're looking for a volunteer. If somebody wants to ride the slide,
I know a guy that's done it before. You want to talk to him?
I mean, we need somebody who's gonna actually look at something, but I'm just, we really need somebody to go and see, take
Okay.
pictures and what's going on in there.
Okay, well, he wasn't appointed at that time, I think, so.
Let's see, maybe we can talk to him.
All right. Are you talking about a professional or somebody that's just willing to take the risk to take a bunch of photos?
Well, I mean, really want a professional, somebody who can assess and who can judge.
Sure.
But I mean, at this point, I'll covers.
Because
whether you want that
negative 2% in general liability.
Committee member Goritz looks like he's gonna volunteer. He's raising his hand over here, so we'll get him to go down there.
How long is the tunnel?
It's about a mile.
You're in there.
Will
About a mile.
will there be flowing water?
Oh, we'll turn it off.
But
I mean, I can turn it on if you
couldn't
want.
you feed somebody down in a
We'll
rope
go through it faster if the water's moving.
and hold the rope and just let, you know?
Well, they can come out the other side.
long road.
They don't, there's an out.
Yeah, but you wanna control the speed.
Depends on how much water's in there. You know what I mean? You don't wanna get through fast if there's a lot of water.
Okay.
Anyway.
So $65,000 on the table. to get through it.
Approximately,
I just wanted to get a picture of it. Okay.
For $65,000.
So again, with the infrastructure replacement headquarters building, we're not sure what the plan is there. It hasn't. The facility is doing its job now. Obviously, we would like to have more meeting space. It would be nice to have a dedicated space for the customers with a restroom. And so that's something that we are trying to determine how and where we can do that. These distribution tank coatings, we are doing one this year. A lot of our tanks are aging, so this is something that we're going to be doing regularly. It's hard to find grants for that kind of maintenance work, so that's why that's in here. Paving is just when we accumulate a whole bunch of road work, we have a company come in and do a whole bunch at once. And so that's why those are there. Then moving into priority 2. We have pump station retrofits. Those are, so we're kind of toying with this one. We did a bunch of work with the state appropriation we got on retrofitting some of the pump stations for generators and other things. So we may or may not need that, but that's why we kind of kept it low at $12,000. The safety walkways, we actually are probably gonna pull that one out. We're kind of mulling that one. We did a lot of work last year for $1,000. We got almost all of them built.
That's what I thought.
So there's a couple more. So that will probably be reduced before this is finally approved by the board, but just we're keeping it at 5,000 with what it's been in the past. Treated water line replacement. So we actually didn't get a chance to do any. We were so busy working on mitigation and fire repair that we did not get any treated water lines replaced this year. Plus we had quite a bit of turnover, and then as was previously stated, lots of babies. So we had minimal employees in the department, so we just did not have the manpower to do a bunch of treated water line replacement. And there is grant money that we can find for that. That's actually a maintenance that they will help with because it will help with water conservation. So that is something that we are going to seek out to try to get some money for those. Vehicle replacements. So we are looking at some of the smaller trucks to be replaced. We have one that's a 2004 and one that's a 2008. They're getting up in age. And so those we are proposing to replace with a like size half-ton pickup truck. So these would not be under the carb restrictions. We can just purchase a vehicle, off the lot, so to speak. Pressure regulating valves, those actually have done a really great job of keeping the system from needing a lot of those treated water line replacements because we don't have the pressure spikes that we have had in the past by adding in those pressure regulating valves. Moving into priority 3.
In ALT, you're referring to with all those breaks we had?
Yeah. So we've been putting in a lot of these PRVs and it's been regulating and keeping things kind of holding the line.
I'm not aware of any breaks in ALT this year, but.
A few small ones,
Okay.
nothing major.
Okay,
Not like we had mainline breaks the last couple of years.
right,
Yeah.
good.
Air release valves, again, those we're doing all in-house and we're just kind of replacing those as we get them in, we have some time, we replace them. So we want to keep those in there. Some of the SCADA upgrades, we're looking at having a little bit more automation on some of our pumps and some of our facilities so that we can kind of flip some switches and don't have to be at the facility. So those are what those SCADA upgrades are. So that is approximately $757,000 in total. Again, we probably will not get to everything in priority 2 and priority 3. The reason we're starting to do the priorities is when we have the time if we have the extra money, then we're going into those priority 2, priority 3 projects. Moving into the zone. We do need to still install the water line. That was not done this year because we had a major obstruction in the line. So we were trying to figure out how to repair one of the lines that goes into the leach field. And we just got that repaired, so now we'll be able to kind of focus on other things. We still may get that done this year, but getting close to the end of the year, so I'm not gonna try to push it. If we have to do it next year, it's fine. We're gonna build a small garage at the site so that we can store some of our equipment. It's more of a carport, I guess. Store a tractor, keep things from getting weathered. Now, we do have something in there for a backhoe. This is a one-off piece for the tractor we already have. We're trying to look up something that's a little bit more cost effective than 15,000. I've done some research and me and Alexis have kind of looked at potentially buying a used mini excavator as opposed to just a backhoe attachment. That way we're not putting more wear and tear on the tractor, but we'll have something there that's another piece of equipment. And then moving down into the second half of that, that's all the grant stuff that we are looking at moving into. So you'll notice the canal lining that has not gotten done. I was making a bit of a joke earlier about it. We are still working through the environmental process of this 18 months later. So that is hopefully going to get done this year, and we will get reimbursed by the federal government for those environmental costs and the work. The dredging of the holding reservoir. So some of that is going to come from FEMA. We have some other financial streams that we're looking at to pay the rest of it. But I would say about half of that reservoir is full with sediment. And so we're trying to come up with a plan to get that back to its full holding capacity. And the next one down is the California state appropriation money that we have left. So we did approve to purchase 4 generators for the 4 pumps that do not have backup generation. We were left with about $111,000. We are planning to spend that $111,000 on some AMI. We already have one of the AMI antennas. It's actually sitting in Adam's office currently. Needs to get installed. We're looking at buying about 3 more of those. They're approximately $25,000 a piece. And then the installation would come for the rest of that money. So that is something we're looking at doing in the next fiscal year. Still waiting on the HMGP grant. That is the canal lining and canal improvements. So we're trying to pipeline a large portion of the canal. We also have another grant that we're trying to receive currently. It's $8.8 million grant to do another section of the upper. So this would be above the tunnel. So we're trying to basically pipeline from above the tunnel all the way to the diversion point, so we can reduce erosion, we can reduce infiltration, and we can reduce blowout. So overall, it will probably save us a lot of water. Money, water, time, all of the above. That's why we're trying to do those improvements.
I just noticed Nevada Irrigation District issued a emergency proclamation.
Yep.
Their most headwaters reservoir, Spalding, had a corroded valve. It wasn't theirs, it was PG&E's, but that was where their water comes from. They now had to they're gonna have to rely on their lower elevation, smaller reservoirs to supply their entire base through at least June.
Yes.
So it just really was, punctuated the need for that redundancy. Sounds like this kind of a project would help with that, reduce the risk of a blowout, reduce the risk of these kind of things. So good.
I believe they had some canal damage too.
They did have that too, yeah.
So there was a number of things that happened.
But they're asking for everybody to do for a 20% reduction through most of this year. So
Yes,
it gets real fast.
It does.
Having redundancies and
we don't want to be there.
proper maintenance is so important.
And if we can continue to improve on the system, then we can, avoid those issues. Those, infrastructure, it gets old and it doesn't get any better as it ages. It does definitely deteriorate. The next one is the CAL FIRE grant. So we did receive that grant. We've been purchased the equipment this year. We are now moving into the actual meat of that work, having a forester and having a company come in and having that work completed. So that's the other approximately $920,000. So hopefully we can have that done soon. We do have a CDS lift station upgrade that we're looking at. There is a grant from an old Prop 50 grant that we are going to try to get some help with. There's money kind of been sitting in this since the early 2000s that is still available. So we're gonna try to see what we can do, and hopefully we can pull some of that money out of that old grant fund. And then you'll notice down on the bottom, going back right into the solar, I don't have to really talk much more about that, but there's that $1.7 million. So the first one will be a loan program. The second one hopefully is a grant program. We won't pursue the batteries without the grant program. I don't think it's advantageous or cost effective unless somebody else is paying for those. The solar is another, another thing entirely. We did receive the appropriation for the Sweetwater tank that came through last week, 2 weeks ago, something like that.
Yeah.
So that is finalized. We are going to start the engineering for that directly. And
1.25 mil?
1.25.
What was the size tank originally?
We're looking at between 1 million and 2 million. The footprint of the area,
Yeah.
it may be a limiting factor in
Yeah.
how big of a tank we can put in.
Right, the big picture, we really wanna know how much capacity we have. Right now, it's like, what is it, 1 day in the summer?
You have about 8 hours in the middle of the summer.
Yeah, 8 hours, but it was 8 hours in the day, so 1 day maybe through the night and everything, 1 day.
You have about 8 hours.
8 hours. Okay, so Walton with dredging is how many days?
Well, that's before treatment, so
Yeah.
I'm saying 8 hours is after treatment.
8 hours after treatment.
Yeah, so Walton, if you can fill Walton, we'll have about a week's worth of water that can go to the treatment plant. Right
So
now, we have
about
about
3
3
days.
to 4
3
days. Now, when you come into like the treated water portion, so like for the Sweetwater treatment plant, we have a 500,000 gallon tank that sits up on a hill.
Mm.
We wanna put another 1 million to 2 million that sits down lower, so that if we have to turn the plant off for some reason, we can turn it off for about a day and a half and have any maintenance done or work done. And that 1 to 2 million gallons will allow that to happen.
Yeah.
Now, if that happens, we're gonna, in the summertime, we would, restrict lawn watering and stuff like that. Hopefully, we could make it through more than a day and a half, but we would be in the same situation as Nevada Irrigation District if we had a problem with that treatment plant.
Yeah, so, my thinking is that 1.2 million, 1.25 million will purchase X. If we determine we wanna get the most for our dollar. We could invest in this.
Sure.
50% more and get 100% more capacity. If it'll allow the footprint.
Potential, yes, you're correct.
Is
So
that we're trying to optimize,
we would
right?
like to get the biggest tank that we can possibly get in the area that we have available.
Okay, not just we're only gonna get as big as tank as we can get, the grant will cover.
No, we're
Okay.
looking at what options are, and I've done some preliminary, we've done some preliminary work on tank costs. We can, for about for the 1.25, we'll cover about a 1.1 million gallon tank. So if we wanna go a little bigger, we can probably get up to, I'm guessing 1.5 million. I don't know if the full 2 million will fit. The problem is the diameter is too small. You'll have like an 80-foot tank, and it'll be probably more, what's the word I'm looking for? At risk than something that's shorter. So 40, 50 foot is probably more where we wanna be safety wise.
Like tipping over or something?
Not tipping over, but having a catastrophic failure. Water's heavy. The higher you go, the more pressure you have on
Like an
sides.
earthquake or something?
Just in general.
Yeah, what about having a skyscraper in your backyard and neighbors complaining?
I mean, obviously, we wanna make sure that we're good neighbors, but that's not our first concern. Our first concern is the entire community. So we wanna make sure that the entire community has the resources that they need, but we also wanna make sure that we're being good
I heard
neighbors.
I heard we had to build a few fences for somebody.
Moving on,
Okay.
Does it make any sense to bury any of it? Just curious.
potentially,
Thinking out
yeah,
loud.
potentially. So we're gonna have the problem with burying it is the cost, is typically those costs more. But I can't remember the name of it. If you ever see the ones that have like the mosaics on the top, they look like a triangle. Those are the ones that we're looking at, because they're the most cost effective to put in. The water wheels, so it's money that we have here, but it's looking like we're not gonna be paying for those water wheels. We are actually meeting with a company called Emergy, EMRGY. They wanna come in and put like 20 to 30 different water wheels within the canal system. And they wanna be able to generate power, and then they're gonna pay us a percentage of that power. And it would be no money for us, it's just the resource that we have that's flowing down that they wanna capture. So that's something that we're entertaining right now. And then down below that, you see the alternative water sources is approximately 750,000. So we have a couple different federal appropriations and a state appropriation that we're applying for. The federal appropriation is to hopefully buy and pay for a hydroelectric generator at the bottom of Stumpy Meadows, at the bottom of the Edson Dam. So that will be something to capture any water that goes out of that, generate power, get that power back into the grid. And then the state appropriation that we applied for is to reconnect the diversion from Onion Creek back into the back end of Stumpy. CAL FIRE was nice enough to, during the King Fire, take our diversion and reroute it, we'll say. So we're trying to now get the state to pay for us to get it back into the back end of Stumpy. So that's that, and then we'll go ahead and, I'll look at the future canal improvements. Now, the packet you may have received or printed out, I did remove a few things. There was one, and I apologize, what it was, Canyon Creek Reservoir. We're not really looking at that anymore, but we are looking at Onion Creek Reservoir and potentially another reservoir site. And I don't remember what else I took out. I'm sorry, I've been talking too much.
It's okay.
And then, before we go to questions, let's pull up the, consolidated expenses report. And so, again, this is the first time the committee's seeing this, so we'll pull it up on the screen. We will post this on the website directly, to make sure that this is available for the whole public, but this is something that we all want to look at together. Bear with us for 1 minute. So it looks like if you kind of look at the whole, bear with us 1 more minute. It's the one over to the right, I think. Oh, it's a full screen.
They see it online, but you don't see it.
So, kind of looking here, looks like it's about a 12% increase in the wages and benefits. Can you just make that a little bigger for me? Sorry, I have it a little bit bigger on my side. I apologize for the small lettering. And about 7% total increase in non-labor expenses. and a total of about 10% of increase.
Lagging, sorry,
What's
guys.
Are the folks online able to see this or will
Yes.
they? as
Yeah,
soon as
they
it-
can see
Okay.
it.
Okay. Just. go ahead. So, as was, asked by, committee member Hellick, it looks like about a little bit less than 400K in total wages and benefits and approximately, 130K in, non-labor expenses for a total of roughly 450K. You were pretty close in your estimate, maybe a little bit more than that, maybe 500.
What is 400 and 100? What is that? That's
It's a little less than 400 and a little bit more than 130, so it's right around 500,000. I'm doing quick math, I mean, it's not quite there.
And what's that as a percentage?
It's right there on the bottom, it's about 10% of an increase
10.
total, 7% in non-labor and 12% in.
Okay.
So do you kind of just use your mouse surface? So this right here, this upper part here is 12% right here,
That's 12, okay.
and then right here is
Oh, there it is.
7% right here, and then the total is 10%.
Okay.
How does that match your revenue projections for next year?
So I can bring that up now. So it looks like we're,
And I didn't know what the proposed grant revenue would be, so I just kept it at 3 million.
yeah, that's fine. So right now, our proposed revenue is about 6.2 million. That would be basically right on with where we're at.
You're at 6.2, oh, right about that.
Yes, 6.248. It's close. I think we all realize that when we do the cost of service analysis that, you know, there are certain things that need to be paid for. In some of this work, we're trying to toe the line, we're trying to keep everything low. We're trying to, as you said, you know, watch the professional services, we're trying to watch all the expenses. There are certain things that are out of our control, PG&E costs are going up, material costs are going up, labor costs are going up, you know. Not much goes down, except for we kind of tighten the purse strings a little bit, and we try not to purchase as many things, so we're still, you know, within reason of having a solvent budget. But we definitely need to, look at saving for a rainy day.
Ask a question here, is the tunnel inspection and lining this part of this, the same as the annual canal lining, canal improvements? Is that different?
Different,
Okay,
So the tunnel inspection is just an actual inspection of
just the inspection.
just that one piece, and it's like about a mile.
Yeah, and lining, what is the line?
So lining is we are taking a portion of the existing canal and putting concrete at the bottom of it, again, to stop from.
So it's two separate things, tunnel and lining somewhere else.
Lining is somewhere else, yes.
And what about a video of the tunnel, and then you could go back later and analyze the
Anybody who does the work we will require a video.
Okay.
Who, it's just like a well, you know, when you have wells, they camera wells all the way down to 600 to 1,000 feet, we're gonna require somebody to camera it.
Picture's worth 1,000 words, a
That's
video's worth 1,000 pictures, I don't know.
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
So Nick, you
Yes,
had
ma'am.
mentioned a couple of things that might tweak down a little bit,
Yes,
so
We're-
this is kind of still the,
I would say it's still preliminary.
Okay.
I hope to have something a little bit more solid that we can, you know, make a recommendation to the board at the next meeting.
Okay.
But I wanted to make sure you had all of this.
Yeah.
And then you can make your comments and you can see where we're at. And if you see anything that's kind of out of place, then we can address those.
okay.
And one other thing for the revenues, if you go back up to the top. Because you will be getting a copy of this, the red water sales, so commercial sales, institution, government, landscape. So landscape, we track all of this for, is it the WDR or the
No, it's for the annual water supply assessment.
one that Adam does?
Annual water supply assessment.
Okay, so I didn't wanna mess up the actuals for the last 5 years. So the residential sales numbers have not changed, but those gray boxes below are included in that number.
Okay.
So I was able to pull out the historical information of our water sales. But we didn't have a line item for it when we transitioned to Tyler. So I've created all of those and we'll be starting to track that in the budget to actuals going forward.
So this is something that the state is now requiring, and it's not that they're now requiring it, it's that they're kind of recommending. You look at the different pieces,
Well, we have to report it anyway. We might as well just have it in the GL.
there's multiple different reports, the EAR, the WSA. Oh my gosh, I just said it, annual water supply assessment, and there's a monthly reporting requirement that we all have to submit. Each one of those, they want you to break this out as much as possible. So, you know, we don't have a lot of commercial, we don't have a lot of institutional, but it's still important to kind of know what we have and to be able to report this correct. So we went back in, I actually asked Jessica to go back in, and it was a lot of work for her to pull all these information out, because she would have to go back into the records pretty far back and code stuff, you know, individually by account. And so this is where we are at. And then into the future, we're going to budget a little bit more closely like this. I imagine the rate study will come back and it will actually mirror much of this, and they're going to want to see it how it is based on the different categories.
And this budget won't reflect a rate increase, any rate increase it may, okay.
There is no rate increase shown in the budget at all. We do not know what the analysis will
Right.
show,
Right,
and so we can't show that.
got it.
So I remember going through this process last year, we had talked about irrigation sales. And possibly kind of trying to increase that.
We lost inches this year.
Well, so far, yeah,
So far.
we have not had, we're about 18 inches short from last year.
What is that in dollars?
So it's about what is it,
You can see it on the.
It's about $700 an inch, I think.
Yes.
Am I right? What's the
I can
actual
look at
number?
the report.
Can't remember. It's like $756 an inch, I would say.
Per month.
No, total.
When you say we lost as in customers are buying less.
We just haven't had, people have, they still have time, so we may not have lost all 18, but they have not applied those. There's about 18 inches outstandings currently.
So that's, was it Andy, is 800 times 18
I
times something?
believe when I was buying 2 inches, it was right around 1,600 for the UVM, so.
Yeah, I would say it's like 756 or something like that.
Yeah.
So,
I can't.
How many, go ahead.
no, I was just thinking like,
You're fine.
so how
That's
can we
14 grand.
beef that up? I mean, advertising, is it?
So we are advertising, we're sending flyers, we are aware, we're trying to increase that. You know, so we have some other revenue options that aren't always reflected in the budget that will be used for that water as well.
Okay.
Is the irrigation committee active in meeting?
Very. They're actually, and I don't mean to.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
They've been approving a flyer. We have a flyer that's gonna go out that's gonna target specific areas and. Hey, we have inches available in your area, please, you know, if you're interested, please reach out. When the season starts, all the rules, we just redid the whole ordinance, so, you know, that's very important to everybody to have the new rules in place. Lots of input for the irrigation committee.
You know, there's a saying that if you want to discourage an activity, you tax it. And if you want to encourage, you reduce the cost. Can you reduce the cost of the cost of raw water and then offset it by the increased demand?
So the answer to that question is yes and no. The yes is there is a potential that it could be reduced. The no is you can't subsidize a service in the water industry. Unfortunately, that is illegal. We're not allowed to, if it costs $1 to get a gallon to somebody's house, we can't charge them 80 cents and charge somebody else 20 cents and offset those costs. That is strictly prohibited. So we have to be really careful in the rate study, the cost of service analysis. We'll flesh that out of what it actually costs to get a gallon of water or a miner's inch or, you know, whatever the metric is to all the different homes within the district. And then that is where the the number will be determined, so,
Thank you.
it's really hard.
And it brings up the perennial problem of this whole district. You've got a huge system with a small ratepayer base, right?
And then, you know, to extrapolate that, the raw water is even a smaller rate base, you know, there's only about 400 or less customers within that system, and so, you know, they're bearing the brunt of, if you look at 5,200, that's completely borne by the brunt of the raw water system, plus some of 5,100, and plus some of 5,600, so they kind of, it's a small customer base for a big amount of water and a big amount of money, so.
Do you have an estimate of how many acre feet of miners inches?
It's 1/50 of an acre foot.
Roughly 11
Right,
gallons per minute.
Sorry, excuse me,
I'm looking at.
it's 1/50 of a cubic foot. And it's, I apologize, yeah,
Oh,
1/50th of 7.5
so
gallons.
we sell about 4,000 acre feet of water through raw water every year, about
4,000
4,000.
Okay.
And I'll tell you, we actually have, our water conservation efforts, we've saved about 2,000 to 2,500 acre feet of water just by the water conservation that we've done. We used to account for almost 8,000 acre feet of water in just the raw water system, and now we only have to account for about 6.
And that's water that's potential transferable.
It's potentially transferable, it's potentially to be left in the reservoir, it's potential for, yeah, lots of different things.
I don't know enough about the raw water stuff, but is the market shrinking?
Yes,
I mean, it just seems to me there's less and less agriculture going on, and less.
it's, you know, it's if you look at it, it's about $146 an acre foot. You need, you know, multiple acre feet to do an acre of just about any kind of agriculture, so it has to be a cost-effective crop, or you have some ornamental purpose for it, and that's completely borne by the rate there.
Somebody's growing Christmas trees, not the best problem.
Well, it would be good, I think, you know, we'll talk about future agenda items. It would be good to bring it up purely from a fiscal standpoint and do some education and talk about irrigation more as an item down the road a little bit. Let me bring it back. Let's bring the meeting back to the item that we're on. So these are potential action items. We do, as a committee, have the opportunity to give some recommendations to staff.
Yep, and I don't
Based
think
on
we're
what we've
ready
heard
to
so
recommend
far.
to the board yet. I think I'd like to hold off on that for you all.
Okay, we give one more opportunity. Anybody else have any comments on the status of the proposed budget as it stands here in March?
And Mr. Chairman, I will just reiterate that we will get those two PDFs put up online forthwith.
Okay.
Good, yeah, that's valuable. Okay, I don't, does anybody have a motion? I would, you know, my general thoughts that don't necessarily need to be in the form of a motion, or that I see the logic. I like the direction. I think there's more details to work out as information comes in, but I would say keep going in the direction you're going would be my input anyway.
I've seen, they've really tightened it up so well. I mean, you know, with fuels, and you've just done a good job, I think, really.
Yeah, we give Jessica tons of credit.
A lot of kudos to Adam too.
Jessica and Adam really kicked butt on it.
All right. So, don't know that I think I'm hearing basically the same thing. Keep going in the direction that you're going, and as it gets closer and closer, we'll make that recommendation formally to the board. All right.
Yeah, keep going for those grants.
Oh, you know it.
Full board.
That's what I'm doing almost 24/7. I am living, eating, breathing them.
In the past, one might say is keep trying to get a grant.
Yeah, and be strategic about which ones you go for. And I think, as you mentioned, a federal grant comes with an enormous environmental and administrative burden. And you do have to do that calculus, which grants are worth the administrative effort to get them, so.
And we're looking at ones that have a return on the investment.
Well, that brings us to number 7, Finance Committee member, committee comments and reports. Any of the members have any comments, any?
Just reiterate with you, what you both said. I think it looks pretty solid. It's a lot of work, a lot of effort. Well done.
I do have Mr. Chairman, if you'll indulge me for 1 minute, I did wanna, let the committee know and welcome your input. We plan to have you all be part of the cost of service analysis report. We did hire water resource economics, so, thank you, Mr. Chairman, for, helping us grade that. We will be utilizing, the gentleman's name is Sanjay Guar. He is, been in the industry for, boy, oh boy, 30 to 40 years doing rate studies. He is excellent. He is very, very experienced. I will plan to have him here at the committee to do a presentation once we are, getting to that point, so that you all can be kind of aware of what we're seeing, what he's seeing. And I want it to be early in the process, so you guys can give input. I think your input is very valuable to this process. Obviously that is a financial component of the district, so I just wanna hope that the committee will be willing to hear and give recommendations to him as well.
That does not necessarily have to coincide with next year's budget, right? I mean,
No, it does not.
so, okay, I just want everybody to know, we're not rushing to get
We are
something
not.
done for next year's
We
budget.
likely
This
will
is a
not have
process we
something.
want to do right.
We will not have something until.
Yeah.
The previous year.
Good.
I would like to make an announcement
Yes, sir.
that for next meeting, you will have a special guest substitute liaison
Oh,
while I will be leaving the People's Republic for a few weeks. And so this person will be here to gain full knowledge and the appreciation of what the Finance Committee does on a monthly basis. That isn't seen by the public, let alone always appreciated by the full board. And Vice President Seaman will be here in my place to actually see the behind the scenes and how you filter out and make the board's job easier when we have to analyze the budget and make go through the process. And I tried to explain to the board that there would be a lot more involvement by us that we would otherwise wouldn't have to do if you weren't, that we'd have to do. So
excellent.
Vice President Seaman will be here for that meeting to actually see you guys in action. And
Looking forward to it.
yeah,
And you'll come back and tell us what it's like on the other side of the wall? Okay, so,
I'll be in
Thank you.
Tennessee, so.
outstanding. All right.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm looking forward to seeing you guys, what you provide,
All
in
right.
this district.
Well, I'd just like to say, I am delighted to hear that your employees are having babies. I think there is a little bit of pain and adjustment when that's happening, that, with them being on leave and the baby bonding and those kind of things. But when that's going on, that is life, that is stability, that is long-term investment. I am delighted to hear it, and congratulations to those families.
Oh, we are not saying it that we were mad about it. We're just saying that it's something that we want to take account for.
Say it on the record. I
Yeah.
am delighted and congratulations, and that's wonderful.
So it's family leave, the men taking off because their wives, not, I was thinking,
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
we haven't lost any of the people to actually having babies. We've lost men taking paternity leave, yes.
that's what it's called.
Good for
That's
them.
why I saw the look on your face, and I was like,
Family.
Yeah, words mean things, I'm thinking. Thank you, good job.
All right, brings us to item number 8, agenda items for the next finance committee meeting. Any suggestions, ideas? Have one. I think it would be good, whether it's the next one or whether you want to wait, maybe till after the budget, just depending on workload. I think it'd be good to have just some education on retirement funding and how it works.
Yeah.
So you've got mandatory reporting. I guess I was still a little bit questioning, what you have to report versus what do we believe the actual costs are going to be. So I just like just a general primer and overview of retirement funding, kind of the mandatory things and then the reality of it.
Sure.
What you pay, what PERS pays. So if you could just give us a primer on retirement funding in the district, one of these upcoming meetings.
We can go over all the different tiers, because there's actually 3 different tiers of employee and how many of each we have and what that actually means, because that's kind of the long and short of it. It's a lot less onerous than it used to be. If you got hired after 2013, you have less of a retirement burden on those employees than you do those prepared before.
Andy,
Yeah,
this is your wheelhouse. Is this something you already are aware of, or is this for the benefit of the rest of the?
Well, good question, because I think, one of the things this committee can be good at, the board and all the business they have to do is to be able to do these kind of recorded education sessions. And when those questions come up in the future, rather than having to reiterate it, you could say, here's the link. We did a 10-minute presentation. And so I think your questions are answered here. So if we can pick up some of those issues and do, just an educational primer on these things for folks that can refer back to them. It's good service we could provide here. So.
Excellent.
Yeah, we have all the information and we even have like a 20-page Excel spreadsheet that talks about like if our current employees stay, what our liabilities are and what their estimated.
Yep.
It's a whole thing. What their
Outstanding.
estimated retirement age would be for male or female, what their life expectancy is. It's all calculated in.
Yeah, very good.
Especially for us not in government. We have no idea.
Well, with all the clean water we have here, we got a long life expectancy. That helps. All right, anything else on item 8? Then we move on to item 9, next meeting date and adjournment. So our next date, the regular meeting will be 3 p.m. on April 25th. Does that anybody know of any conflicts?
I do, but I will attend via Zoom.
Okay,
So can you just coordinate with Liz
Right.
of a location so we can post it on the agenda?
Right.
Are you in district or out of district?
Oh, I'm,
Doesn't
I'll
matter.
tell you in a minute.
Okay.
Doesn't matter.
What's the date?
You don't have to say it on the
25th?
record, we'll talk after.
Okay.
Yeah,
I'll be in Arizona.
okay.
Other side of the wall. Just a question on any interest in being on the finance committee out there in the public? Don't want to burn you guys out.
It's the high pay.
It's the,
That's why we're here, for the free water.
we don't say that a lot.
Don't say that.
Don't say that.
Bottles of water.
Yeah, the bottle, yeah, 3 bottles.
So you have to leave a legacy. If
The
any-
unlabeled
any-
3 bottle, we don't want
If
to.
any of you want to be board members, what happens is create a void if you move up or in, then it leaves a finance committee without anyway.
Yeah.
So, that's one reason,
Right.
that's one reason Nick was to keep pursuing. Because we got talent here to be board members.
Oh, no, I,
that's, you hear that? Talent, you got talent.
Talent on the.
All right, well, with that, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
To
I
adjourn,
second.
third, adjourn.
Thank you.
We're on a lag, so the mic is.
All right, are we passing these down?